Темата за платените лобисти на ВМРО-ДПМНЕ во Америка е повеќе пати јавно експлоатирана. Според достапните податоци, евидентно е дека партијата, особено во изминатите 2 години, потроши големи суми за да влијае на политиките на Вашингтон кон Македонија. Имаше и многу пиар текстови во прилог на досегашната владеачка структура, кои овде беа пренесувани како автохтони ставови на влијателни креатори на американското јавно мислење, а всушност беа платени објави. Кога во февруари оваа година американскиот конгресмен Рора за една телевизија во Албанија даде изјава дека Македонија не е држава и дека треба да се подели, овој настап беше искористен од медиумите блиски до ВМРО-ДПМНЕ во прилог на тогаш забрефтаната кампања дека Зоран Заев ја прифатил тиранската платформа и дека ќе ја федерализира и дели Македонија. Еве изјавата на конгресменот Рора Бахер дадена за телевизија Визион Плюс на 6 февруари годинава.
I hate to tell you this because this is going to make everybody mad at me, but what the heck? I mean, my own inclination is Macedonia is not a country. I'm sorry, it's not a country. They're so constructed that they'll never be able to get along. So the Kosovars and the Albanians in Macedonia should become part of Kosovo, and frankly, the other part should become part of Bulgaria or wherever countries they are associated with.
Ова изјава на Рора Бахер, дадена среде националистичкиот набој во Македонија со тиранската платформа, следуваше лавина текстови во овдешните медиуми во кои американскиот конгресмен беше портретиран како албански лобист, поддржувач на радикални исламски структури и неизбежно како платеник на Сорос. Рора Бахер, Заев, Еди Рама и Али Ахмети имаат иста визија, е еден од тогашните наслови. Но кога оваа изјава на Рора Бахер од февруари ќе се погледне низ призмата на настапот на овој конгресмен пред 2 дена на сослушувањето во подкомитетот за Европа на Американскиот конгрес, таа добива сосема друг призвук. Во дебата со заменик помошникот државен секретар Чија, Рора Бахер ги користеше тезите кои на овдешната политичка сцена ги експлоатира ВМРО-ДПМНЕ, затоа дека партијата што освоила мнозинство е оставена надвор од владата и тоа по директна интервенција на американскиот амбасадор Джес Бейли. Еве го тој дел од полемиката на Рора Бахер со Чија.
A majority was elected in Macedonia, and the reports that we have are that our ambassador actually encouraged a situation in which the Macedonian government, rather than having it the majority, the party that won the majority, take over, we have been encouraging obstructionism and some kind of coalitions that to try to make sure that the party that won didn't actually take power. Is that an accurate assessment?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. No, it's not an accurate description.
Okay.
Actually, quite the opposite took place. Let me begin with the first part, just to make clear on interference. There's no question that the United States is assertive in defending U.S. interests and what we believe should be accepted by countries that want to be partners with us. And this is important to mention that Macedonia wants to join NATO. Macedonia wants to join the European Union, and the same with Albania also wants to join the European Union. We as partners are trying to help them meet the standards necessary in order to achieve that goal. So when, for example, we advocate for rule of law, when we advocate for judicial independence, when we advocate for human rights, it is not always popular to the government in power. But we believe as partners and as potential allies, it's important to make clear and to help them implement reforms that will advance what we believe is a shared interest. But if the government does not want to support rule of law, does not want to support human rights, it is their sovereign right to do so. It is still our obligation to make clear what our priorities are.
As long as the government is representative of an election process, that they are the real government, whoever.
Absolutely.
We believe the majority of people will decide who is the government. And if we are there undermining that for whatever reason we want the government to go the opposite direction, we are interfering with people's right to choose their government. And we've heard Mr. Meeks is very concerned about any influence the Russians might have. Okay, they have their national interest, we have our national interest. But perhaps it's better for us. I mean, what the result that I see in Macedonia is that, and I use some not totally accurate words when someone asked me about it. They got quoted all over the world, but they don't have, I shouldn't say a country, they don't have a government. I mean, and they don't have a government because there's been people there from the outside, I believe, who's convincing people not to either respect the majority or, number two, not to make the compromises that are necessary for democratic government to work. And if we're down there watching out for our interests, and we have decided that that's tied to social goals that may or may not be what the people there believe in, we are interfering with their with that system to the point that it's totally broken down. And you don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, the government right now, they still have not have a functioning government in Macedonia. Am I wrong?
There is an interim government, sir, to answer your question.
An interim government, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But to answer your question, in Macedonia, the elections did result in a situation in which no one party had a majority. And therefore, it was incumbent upon the parties to form a coalition that would have a majority of seats in parliament so the government could be formed.
Was it a majority of the vote or a majority of the people elected in the parliament?
It was proportional. So it was essentially the same, that the party...
So no party won a majority of the
No
vote.
party won a majority. However, there was a coalition of members of parliament that did represent a majority that is supposed to receive, under normal European democratic norms, a mandate from the president of the country to form a government. And up until today, the president has been withholding that mandate from the majority. And we have been advocating very strongly, sir, for the president to observe the Constitution, observe European democratic norms, along with our European partners.
Okay, so we have been suggesting that the president send that letter and make that recognition. Is that it?
That he allow the formation of a government. Not one party or the other, but to give the mandate to the majority. This is the basic democratic principle. And today he did that. So we've advanced beyond the next step out of this crisis.
Има уште еден важен аспект во политичкиот портрет на Дејна Рорабахер, а тоа се неговите проруски ставови во континуитет со години. Рорабахер важи за омилен конгресмен на рускиот претседател Владимир Путин. Неговото име деновиве се споменува во актуелната истрага за руско влијание на претседателските избори во САД и врз членови на администрацијата на Доналд Трамп. Вашингтон Пост објави дека постои аудио снимка на која се слуша како лидерот на републиканското мнозинство во Конгресот, Кевин Маккарти, му коментира на спикерот Пол Рајан дека се сомнева оти двајца републиканци се на платниот список на Путин. И тоа Доналд Трамп и Дејна Рорабахер. Подоцна Маккарти рече дека се шегувал. Сепак својот специфичен однос кон Москва, Рорабахер не го криеше ниту на последната дебата со шефот за Балканот во Стејт департментот Хојти.
In terms of our influence, let me note that several times what we've heard here today is how we must be concerned about Russia's, we have to stand up to Russia's trying to increase its influence. What is that all about? I mean, this is Russia-phobiaism. Russia-phobia, that they are no longer the Soviet Union. They are a major power. They have every right to try to expand their influence by influencing people in various parts of the world, as we do. And we are all over the map in these things. And we are our military all over the world, trying to do that through the military even. And yeah, Russia has every right to try to become an influential force, especially on countries that border Russia. What's going on? I mean, we went up to the Baltics, and after hearing the words Russian military aggression in the Baltics over and over and over again for a year, I went up there, and then we had a hearing, and there was no Russian military aggression in the Baltics. I mean, not once has their troops gone into one of these countries, and yeah, we actually put more troops on their borders than they actually put inside their own country next to these countries. So again, I think this idea that we are now treating Russia the same way we did during the Soviet Union is harmful to peace and undermines our ability to get things done and promote peace in the world. One last thing about this whole thing about Macedonia and Soros and these other things. Look, and here's where we disagree. No, if a country decides they have political parties based on their social norms, whether it's, yeah, they have a right to have a political party and say, no, we are not going to, and I'm not stepping on trying to attack anybody here or anything. We have a right to determine what we consider to be acceptable in our national parade, okay? And I know we have had problems with that. What I see is that you have Christian groups in these countries that Soros and his gang don't like the Christian groups. They don't like family groups, people who have more traditional conservative principles. Now, I'm not saying those principles are right. I'm just saying the people of these various countries have the right to do that without interference from us, without us shipping in money to try to help them organize politically to get the guys who are on the other side of those social norms.
So what we are doing is helping them to achieve their goal. We're not telling them they must join NATO or they must join the European Union, but they must meet certain standards if they do want to advance. Russia is fundamentally against what these countries are trying to do. That is the difference. We're trying to help these countries join the West. Russia's trying to hold them back.
Ова беше американскиот конгресмен Дейна Бахер, кој во февруари изјави дека Македонија не е држава и дека треба да се подели меѓу Косово и Бугарија. Ова што вечерва го слушнавте и видовте, оставам сами да заклучувате за позадината на ставовите што ги брани Бахер.